Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated. All right. So good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming. This is like
Thanks for having me, man.
My dream podcast.
This is Ehud's dream podcast.
All right.
I think I told you that when I opened up for you on New Year's. I was like, yeah, Ehud keeps always like, come on, let's get coke. Let's get coke.
I've been watching, you know, since you started, so I was like, I got to get on this.
Yeah. We're happy to have you.
Congratulations on it, you know.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
Episode 104. Finally.
This is like, this is where we start to rise right here. I just got a suit. I got suits for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm starting to dress up.
Yep.
That's my new thing. But keeping these toes.
Those are happening. Good run on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for the runs on the beach for sure. So what I started running on these on the pavement, and then I kind of did injure my Achilles.
Ooh.
So I started running in normal running shoes.
Yeah.
I was really like representing these for a long time.
They always say that the feet, it's the best thing to run barefoot or something.
Yeah. The idea of it is really sound because then you protect your knees and your hips.
Right.
Because you run more gazelle-like.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not like clomp,
on your toes,
clomp.
yeah.
Yeah. And because if you have big...
Say like that or something.
Right. If you have big pillows, then you like don't know that you're doing this.
Yeah.
And so then your knees get jacked up. That's the idea. I still run with them, but... So you... What was the inspiration of the Fear Heights song? Learning to Fly?
Scared of Heights.
When you're scared of heights, sorry.
We're just kind of overcoming, you know, realizing that a lot of things are motivated out of fear and not trying to continue to be motivated by that in general in life. And I think, you know, a lot of people look at life is like something to their motivation is that, you know, what I won't have instead of trying to look at what I possibly could have, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Spiritually, you know, financially, all these other things, you know, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've manifested a hell of a lot. Like when I opened up for you in Philly, I was like, I don't know, just
New Year's, right?
Yeah, your whole operation was like, I don't know, so sound and enviable to me. Something I aspire to, actually.
Thank you.
And you do it without a manager too, which I was kind of like.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of weird on this level, with the level I'm at, which is like kind of clubs, bigger clubs and smaller theaters. It's kind of, managers kind of have multiple artists, and I think that it's always been kind of difficult to find kind of that person that understands kind of the whole picture. Now, not with like international, and I'm not on a major, so there's not anybody necessarily to talk to that might be you know, that they have to talk to. There's not like, oh, we have to get this out in Sweden and have somebody talk about that. It's kind of like,
yeah.
But I think great managers are like, you know, very hard to come by, and I think it takes a real connection between the artist and the manager. You know, I don't fault management. I think that's the thing. The artist has to also kind of fit well with the manager and kind of have some kind of, you know, plan.
But it takes a lot of organization to do it all on your own, right?
Well, I think you have aspects of it that kind of run, you know, like a tour manager does a lot of kind of the logistical things that happen on the road. Mm-hmm. You have a tour manager. Yeah, and then you'll have somebody that kind of like the sound person that helps with the production side. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of covered. And then I have an agent that books the shows and works out a show with the promoter. And then, you know, you have kind of your personal logistics. And I haven't ever had a hard time kind of like getting on a plane or getting in a taxi kind of thing, or
Right.
you know, just so I think I think with management at the level that I'm doing, it's kind of like I kind of ran into a situation where somebody, whoa, he's making this amount of money on touring, you know, that'll you know, substantiate. And I think I just kind of would rather hire somebody that was kind of on a personal level that I could be my day-to-day person, essentially.
Right. Oh, do you have one of those?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you got like an assistant sort of thing.
Yeah, it's more than assistant. It's kind of
Assistant plus.
Yeah. I mean, because she's pretty much intricately involved in a lot of the stuff that I do, even with the record stuff. And
Right.
she didn't even come from the music side. I just felt she had a pretty strong vibe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast with you on the way over here, and it was like that guy that you hired his brother as your chef when he was 20 years old, sight unseen, because he gave you a bag of weed.
Well, I don't remember the bag of weed thing. I just
Sounds about right.
I just knew that Simon actually probably wouldn't be the type of person to say, oh, this guy, you know, vouch for his younger brother if he wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, somebody good. And I had somebody that was a chef before that who had worked in different capacities for different like big artists. So he was going to kind of train him. So there was going to be a little padding for it as far as like, but
Oh, so you had like a little bit of a safety.
yeah, I mean, I think that Alex was, who is a chef. He's actually like the head chef at a major restaurant in Los Angeles now.
Yeah.
But he was young, and he was like, you know, kind of baptism by fire, and you know, you got to cook lunch and dinner for a bunch of people, go shopping, and it was cool. I think it just gotten to a point where everybody was eating pizza and wings.
Right. And you needed something
and
more.
I just wanted to kind of like provide for everybody a kind of more stable, you know, nutritional kind of thing going out there. And it worked out well because everyone got along with everybody, and we were able to give the venues, some of the people working at the venues, a nice plate of food and stuff like that. So
That's cool.
yeah, I mean, I don't have him anymore, so I lost
Yeah.
I lost another good one. But you always love to see like somebody go up and do great things.
Especially, you hooked him up. Like, especially, like, that's good karma. I'm on a fast right now. I'm on the third day of a, like, mostly water fast.
That's good.
Yeah, so I'm just cleansing. But talking about food, it's just like, oh, my God.
Yeah, the first 3 days are the hardest.
Yeah, well, I'm done after today.
You're just doing 3.
That's just 3. Yeah, just
you went through the hard part.
a reset. You think I should keep going?
Well, you just did one like how
4 months ago?
4 months ago?
I like to do it like every few months.
So how long was the one 4
I
months?
think it was 3 days, maybe more. Maybe it was
okay.
4 days. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Right.
Is it
But-
just liquid?
Well, it's no calories, so autophagy kicks in, and then autophagy is when your body starts eating away old debris, like your old dead cells.
Right.
And then after a day and a half, massive stem cell reproduction starts happening. So you just kind of like, it resets your immune system, and it's just like, you know, I can even see it in my skin. You know, it just like makes you kind of like rejuvenates.
So is coffee in or out? That was where I was.
Coffee's
Coffee's
fine.
in. Okay.
I like have a black coffee
tea.
and tea is fine.
All right.
You know, but I'm gonna have some bone broth at 3 a.m.
Ah, that's a good breaker.
I went to Brado. Got some of those frozen ones.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
a spot over there in the West Village. Is that Brado?
Mm-hmm. They have them all over the place in New York. Yeah.
All right, because there's a good spot over there.
So you go with your instincts, like with the chef and like with the vibe of your manager-ish assistant type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I haven't always been good at that, but when I kind of left it to somebody else to hire somebody, then it gets kind of weird, you know, as far as like not knowing. But we've been lucky to have a lot of good people around, you know.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of people now because of you know, some people went on to do other things because there hasn't been any shows. So,
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You recently resumed. I saw you were doing outdoor shows in,
Yeah.
in the Northeast that looked really interesting.
Yeah, I did like 7 shows at this place called Levitate Backyard. Now it's like a mini Stubbs. It's like usually like
Stubbs
400
barbecue.
capacity,
Yeah.
but it's like or 300, and they just made it like 100. So it was. I just wanted to see what was out there. I did a couple drive-in shows.
What'd you think?
It was pretty. It was different.
Weird.
You know, it was. You know, there was like really some good things that happened for it, because you start to realize you're not necessarily. You get back to realizing that it's not you're performing for people. It's like you're kind of trying to get on that energy wave of just playing music.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's like
It's about you, not about them.
Yeah, it's something you know when you start, and then it's like, then you have that, you know, when you feel like a crowd of people there to see you, you have maybe a different expectation of how to perform. I don't know how. Maybe that's just the way I looked at it, but
Right.
then it's just like, all right, well, you know, I'm not gonna. There's only so much energy you can get from people that are sequestered and kind of centered around. So,
but I saw like even in when I opened up for you in Philly, you were doing like for like special, like, you know, like extra bonus ticket or whatever, like like somebody could see some Soundcheck songs, or you did a couple. Was it kind of like that, more like a Soundcheck song type of shit, or was it?
Yeah, it might have been, but there was an element maybe of people that just wanted to go out, and then there was people that like real fans or whatever. So I think there's people that might just kind of be in the mood to do something that night.
Yeah.
You know,
Did
so-
they honk when you were done with?
Yeah,
the
on the
song?
drive-ins they honked. Yeah, they did the honking thing. and
Did
I
you
used to
start-
hate getting honked at, so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I got to change this around.
Yeah, did it change? Like by the third song, were you like listening for more honks?
Yeah, I was like, you know,
like-
I said,
You
why don't
guys
you?
in the back haven't honked yet.
I said, why don't you Morse code me what song you want to hear?
Did you say that?
Yeah.
That's funny. So what you were saying about the new song, Scared
Scared of Heights.
Scared of Heights, and how like people focus, like, because when I was listening to it, I was interpreting it just thinking about the things I'm afraid to do that I'm gonna do, that I'm
Right.
starting to manifest, that I'm
Yeah.
pushing myself towards doing.
Right.
And you were saying how it was really about like people who like are fear based versus people who are sort of like looking forward to what they want to manifest.
Right.
What do you do to get yourself in that space of manifesting? And like, do you consciously do stuff, or did you just gravitate towards being a manifester?
I mean, I think that there's like so many things that have held me back from manifesting.
Me too.
So it's like, I think that was just recognizing in that instance about that song is that when I was like, oh wow, that's based on something that's not necessarily kind of the most positive thing. If you're because I started looking at like what motivates you and why.
Right.
And I think that like is kind of late to that. I wish I would when I was kind of going through the major label system. I wish I had the capacity to kind of like think of it like that. And I think there's people that have done really well at that and done that really well. But for the most part, I guess saying, you know, even something is stopping something that you might think is a detriment to you, you know,
Right.
if it's alcohol or whatever your vice is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, is that enough to motivate, you know, why do you do that? And then you get to that why, and then it's like, all right, was that enough to motivate you enough to, you know,
Yeah.
fuck your life up over it, you know?
Right.
And then it kind of makes a little bit more sense. So it was Scared of Heights was kind of just like, I just like the analogy of like learning to fly when you're scared of heights, because like having to fly, but you'd be scared of heights to do it,
Right.
you know? And I think it kind of made sense for just moving forward.
Yeah, because everything you do that you haven't done yet is gonna be fear around it,
Right.
But then like you overcome it, and it's momentum based.
Yeah. And why you have that fear, and what that fear comes from, and what is it like? Where did it come from? I think, a lot of the country even now is motivated in fear, so it's been for a long time. I think probably, I always say that, one of the biggest factors in kind of race relations is fear,
Right.
And I think that's been kind of prevalent in our society since that's been so important.
Yeah. How do you overcome your fear?
I tend to go to the shit that I'm scared of stuff, which is really fucked up because I used to hate going on stage. I never thought like performing, that wasn't my thing. I kind of wanted to write songs and produce, but and then I was like, well, who's gonna do these songs? Because they turned out to be kind of like
unique
personally, and it wasn't like something that would kind of like, oh, I could give that to so and so, or I didn't know so and so,
right.
I was like, I'm the artist.
Yeah. When did you start? How old were you?
I started writing poetry in my late teens, and then but I thought it was like the words were good, I just put something out. I was like, oh, where'd that come from?
And flowed right away.
Yeah, and I started playing like guitar when I was 13 or whatever, but I didn't play it. I tried to play other people's songs that I didn't understand, like just even sitting alone, that doing something really basic was actually okay.
Right.
Because I felt like, oh, this guy knows how to play Brown Sugar and
I used to
Stairway.
make myself have to play jazz fusion.
Yeah.
For that same reason.
So I'm like, this guy knows everything. I guess I'm not that good at it. Then I started putting kind of some of those. I got a drum machine because I was really into like when hip hop came out, and I listened to a lot of go-go music from DC. So I was like really into drummers and drums, and it was like, let me get a drum machine and kind of learned with a 4-track and a drum machine, and started doing a little bit of sampling and stuff, and then kind of learned how to structure a song that way, because I didn't understand. It was such a mystery, music was to me. I was like, how'd they do that?
Right.
Listening to like a Willie Mitchell instrumental record and being like, fuck,
right.
How does that come together?
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any siblings or?
Grew up with a sister, and I had really 5 sisters, but not all together living at the same time. So, but lived with 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are they artists, or were you the only one?
I was the only, probably. No, actually, they're all artistic. I don't think that they realize that. I think sometimes you go for maybe something else in life.
Fear
even though you have something special. I think like my 2 sisters were really my half sisters, but my sisters, their father was really, really, my stepfather was really like my father, but was very artistic.
Oh, what did he do?
And he started when I was being raised. He was a defense attorney, public defender, and so we worked for the Public Defender Service in D.C. And my mother was like freelance photographer, so there was like art around. But he was a great photographer, a great drawer, and all this stuff. So
he had that creative spark.
Yeah.
And does your family support what you do and encourage it, or was it something you had to kind of rebel to do? Or
I think it was something that I don't think anyone really wants to. I mean, I think they were supportive, I guess. I don't. When you're doing that, you're kind of on your own, and it's not really like a thing where like, hey, parents like your music or come to your, you know what I'm saying? It's just the whole kind of like, you got to be like a hermit and go in woodshed and come out kind of like a little bit on the other side for people to see. Sometimes, I mean, I've seen situations where people have been very supportive of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ever a thing of like, oh, you know, I love the stuff.
I love what you're doing up in the bedroom, clamping around or whatever.
Well, no,
When
but
did
there's
it-
support and there's go to college, get a job. Why are you doing this?
Did you do that? When did it click that you wanted to do this?
I was in. I didn't go to college out of high school. I used to buy and sell tickets to concert and sporting events. It's what I did when I was in my teens in DC. So it was like I used to like go and sneak into the Redskins games and stuff like that, and then I started seeing that there were tickets out there.
How'd you get into that?
I was a big Redskin fan, and it was impossible to get in the Redskins games.
What do you think of them changing their name?
I think it's great.
But they could have picked a better name.
Well, I mean, I think
What do they call now? Football team?
Football team.
I'm not mad at the Washington Football Club.
Okay.
It's just I
Football
can't.
club.
Football
That's
club.
one up from team.
It's called the Washington Copes.
Yeah,
Right.
That would be better.
I thought they should call him the Martin Luther King's MLK or something, because I think it had a significance.
That's a nice ring to it too.
To what the that him him doing the speech and everything there.
Was that on the cards for a second?
No.
Or you just came up with that?
I just came up with it.
That's a pretty good idea.
That's like what I would name him if I would have.
The Martin Luther
You
King.
need to give them a call.
That's kind of genius, man.
I mean, it would be great.
It would be great.
You know.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would be like, wow.
You need
That would
to
be like,
trademark that quickly. It's a great
Well,
name.
I think
the
it's
Martin Luther
I
King.
think it's trademarked
And
by
everyone
the
would call
King
him the
Foundation.
King.
yeah, I think they beat
Yeah,
him
but then
to
everyone
it.
would call it the Kings.
think
That's a
Coretta-
great name. The
Coretta-
Kings also.
Coretta would-
Yeah,
Coretta
that's a
would-
good idea.
But I think then they would get a lot of money, so that would be good.
I think that's a great idea. Well, listen, I think that's a temporary name they have, so I actually don't think this is too late. Like, I think that's a temporary name right now.
Yeah, I think they need to go and do that.
I think you should. I think you should try to push that forward. That would be
Let's manifest it.
that would be something to manifest.
Yeah, let's manifest.
Let's
that.
manifest that.
Yeah.
The Martin Luther Kings.
Yeah, and then
Scalping's a big
I could-
business.
I
Why
could-
did you leave it?
You know what? I it's kind of funny because I was outside. There were like, it was always good, and I felt like it was something that I could always lean back on it. So I kind of stopped doing it except for certain events, and then but it was great because I could go do it from like 4 to 8 or whatever on a week or weekend, and then like Saturdays there'd be games or whatever, Sundays. But then I would come back and play my guitar, write songs. I had that, ability to make a little bit of cash and then not have to have a 9 to 5, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's dope.
And then, but there were a couple times, like I think I was outside, and I was in a band for a while where we were touring, but it was never like enough to sustain not to stop doing that. And
So that's where 200,000 came from too, right?
yeah, there was a ticket scalper named George that I asked him one time, like how much money he'd ever had, and
Right.
he was like 200,000, and
It's dope.
and
Counterfeit $50 bills.
yeah, and George had passed away, and I had written, he like walked in front of a car in front of the Camden Yards at Baltimore. It's like the first season of Baltimore, and it was enormous, and everyone was making money. He was probably just couldn't, but he'd had some, substance abuse problems, but yeah, he was kind of like a what comes around goes around story with George. So
Karma.
well, he was just like one of those guys that he'd be like, yeah, these are two and two together, 50-yard line, and they'd be like two separate. Like he'd make the name bad. Like he's probably why they call people scalpers. But like for the most part, people like really you're providing a service for people. So it was like a lot of times shows weren't sold out. So you buy a ticket for $5. that was $25 and you'd sell it for like 15 or 10 or 20, whatever, below the real face value. So you'd just be making your money in the confines of what you bought it for. So it wasn't like, you know, they have this idea that everything's like sold out and people like have to sell the ticket above the price. It's just kind of like buying from fans that had extra tickets, and you know, that whole thing has changed now with the internet. So
yes, I love the way you write songs and your lyrics and the way you do these, you know, this sort of character. They're like movies too sometimes, and they have like a street quality to them that's authentic and really amazing, and your own, you know.
Right.
How did you? And when we first met each other, we did that thing at the Bottom Line. The fucking rest in
The
peace,
first time
Bottom
I
Line.
saw you two together, I was at that show.
Yeah.
Susan Vega and
it was the guy that wrote all those songs.
Wimbowe or something like that.
He wrote all those songs for Harry Belafonte.
Yeah. I forget his name.
I was like, this dude is good. Thinking of you.
Oh,
like,
cool,
and
man.
then I remember you talking about loving Randy Newman, which I was like, that was also like, huh? That didn't that seemed like, I get it because Randy Newman's genius too.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. How'd you develop your like song writing ability, and who are some of your main influences?
I think I just had kind of, I mean, songwriting was different than kind of like the musical side, because I just kind of, I mean, I loved the idea of like production of records. So it's just like I loved, a friend of mine turned me on to Willie Mitchell, who produced Al Green's records, and then like, you know, obviously, you know, John Lennon and Bob Marley, the Beatles records, you know, kind of like, you know, when hip hop came out, Outkast's first records and Tribe Called Quest, and pretty much the genesis of when hip hop was going on. I was listening to a lot of go-go music too. Chuck Brown from DC was like a big influence on me. So and then, you know, Randy Newman was just somebody that my mother had the record, and I was like older and I heard a song in a movie and I was like, oh fuck, I forgot it. I used to listen to that record, and I just kind of revisited, and the compositions were so great. The songwriting was.
What about lyrics though? Like, where do you come up with those?
Lyrics just friggin' happen, you
right?
know? It's just a weird fucking thing. It's just like, I don't really, and you know, I don't write them as poetry or anything. It just like happens when I'm strumming a guitar, and it's kind of a weird thing. And then the kind of emotion that goes with that, and they kind of build on, every song builds on the other one, you know. It's just kind of what
Is it true stories like Randy, the woman who called you Randy?
Yeah, there was like a woman that used to come up to me and she'd be like, Randy, where you been? Like, I'm like, am I living a double life here, you know? And you know, she's kind of like street woman, kind of like derelict, and I'm like, where you been, you know?
Randy, where you been?
I miss you so much. And I'm walking down the street with my girl one time at the time, and she's like, who is that woman? So yeah, that was kind of a, and you know, just, I guess the songs always have kind of me in them, like a character kind of, you know, I wrote the song called Pablo Picasso, and it was like this kind of like vision of a homeless guy kind of outside of a mural that he had to leave, and you know, he thought that was his girl, but his life was like, you know, to him, he felt like he was, you know, living the life, you know. And then mural came down, but
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it just kind of, you know, he's like, you know, a woman that I love is 40 feet tall. She's a movie star. She's all in the papers. And everywhere I go, people hand me quarters and they pat me on the back and treat me like I'm famous. You know, so.
Like, that's a genius concept for a song, dude.
Yeah, so it's just, and that's just a weird thing. Just, I was fucking with the rhythm, and that came out.
Yeah.
But, and then, but, you know, somebody said, oh, I was making fun of like people with delusions, or I was like, you know, I think I was
about
thinking
that?
about myself. You know, it's like more so than anything, because we all have delusions in some.
That's the
capacity.
opposite of making fun of that.
Yeah.
That's to me centering into the empathy, or like you're empathetic to that character, to that person.
Yeah, I think right when it came out, you know, one of the first reviews are like, oh, he's, you know, people making fun of people with mental health.
That's some hater shit right there. That's bullshit.
Never crossed my mind.
That's bullshit. Come on, give me a break with that. So when did it strike you? Like, when was the first moment where you're like, holy shit, I'm really pretty fucking good at this? Excuse my language.
I think I was right. Like, after I started doing the drum machine and stuff like that kind of stuff, I just like put that down and started strumming my guitar, and I wrote a couple songs. I wrote 200,000, and I wrote this song called Shotguns.
That was one of your first ones?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I mean, it was one of the first ones that like of this new kind of like no samples, no drum machines, kind of just me and a guitar.
Right.
And that I wrote this Shotgun song, and I felt like just the goosebumps and the tears, and I was like, wow, that's pretty authentic.
And when you do the acoustic thing, though, you kept that hip-hop energy. Something about the way you're the singer-songwriter that has that hip-hop energy, and it's not fake.
Right.
And the delivery.
I just love.
Yeah, I guess delivery.
It's in your
I
tonality.
I always thought it would be cool to have just, you know, kind of like just underground themes, kind of, but set in something that had, like, you know, a chorus and a verse and stuff like that.
Right.
But
it's unique.
Thank you, man.
Definitely, man.
So that first album was major label.
The first record I
Citizen
did,
Cope.
Yeah, that was. But I'd written 200,000. I got signed to Capitol.
Based on that song?
That and a song called Family that never came out, and another thing that I demoed. And then it turned out that they didn't want the record. They passed on it and kind of dropped me.
Why?
I don't know. I think they were just looking for something, and I was like, I think I gave it to them, and in retrospect, probably I didn't complete like, I think the demos I made were a little bit better than what I delivered.
Isn't that the way sometimes it goes, man?
Yeah.
It's like,
and it's so weird that I just kind of like didn't listen to because I was like, oh, well, now I can go at a bigger studio.
yeah.
And
Did you have a producer?
Yeah, like, I didn't have a producer when I made my demos.
Right.
So it was like, and it was at the time where there's so many records being made, it was like more like you know, all respect to Tim, who was working on that. Tim Latham, who worked on that, was more like a real sonic guy, you know, and so I just don't think that the record was fulfilled. But I think, if, you know, going back to one of those things, I probably should have been a little bit more of an ambassador at that time, or, you know, as far as dealing with how they reacted to it, because I was like, oh man, you don't hear this, and you know.
Oh, you mean like, been like playing along a little
playing
bit
along a little bit, and
I have similar regrets about that in the early days. Like, I was just like, I think about it sometimes, like things I said no to, things that came my way that I was like, nope, I'm sticking to my guns. And now I think, like, damn, dude,
that was stupid.
That was stupid. You know?
I got a couple of those too.
Yeah, but it's like, we're still getting after it.
Hell yeah.
So
I mean, you learn from those all mistakes you make, and it's like, I found that all the different shit is just really about personal growth. All this shit is, you think it's about one thing, and it's really just like the challenges that come with that is how you're going to deal with them in your relationship with that challenge or that struggle. It's like not really that struggle. So if you look at it like, and that's just some new shit. Like, I'm like, fuck. It wasn't the problem that I had, that it's how I dealt with that.
Right.
When I didn't feel like I had a single, I had to, how I dealt with that scenario.
Right.
And not the fact that it came up, and that was just probably a test.
Yeah. Have you always been this kind of deep thinker in terms of that, in terms of life? or is that something that's kind of come with age?
I think it's come with age. I think obviously we all have it within us, so it's something that we all kind of were born with, and then, it gets shut off at some point, I guess, through whatever personal or whatever you're dealing with in life. Kind of however your life is set up to be, as far as like what's happened in your life, what experiences you have. And then we're kind of taught, we have to do this or that, whatever it is, to kind of conform. And then, it seems like the conformity never has much to do with like inner peace or something sacred or something like what everyone is trying to achieve. It's always like the
control.
Yeah, and the job, the
fitting you into a box.
Yeah, whatever you do for a living, what what achievements you have, where your kids are going to school, where you went to school, and or whatever it is, how much money you make, whatever all those things that we're kind of like thrown into the capitalist system. So it's like you never know where that's going.
Right.
Yeah.
How much have you changed, do you think, during this whole last few months of like this weird new world we found ourselves in?
I don't know, man. I'm like, it just keeps on surprising me, because it's more like this whole thing. You never expected music to be in a situation where it is right now.
It's wild.
And over the years, all these people like, it's about touring and merch, and then it's just like, okay, well, you gave everything away except the touring and merch.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, what are you guys prepared? What did you guys do to prepare for this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not a good business thing.
Live streams.
Yeah. So, but it's not, there's no excuse for the fact that they just kind of let everything get taken.
Right.
And then there's no answers. So I think my thing is like just being like, okay, well, there's no answers right now, and everyone has the same thing. When they get the vaccine, and it's like, next year or whatever. It just seems like another thing where the artist is gonna get kind of put into another excuse to kind of get more from the artist.
Yeah.
And not to be on the negative side, but I think it's just like, it's wild. I think that economically too, I expected for this long where people wouldn't have work to be
go nuts,
to be a lot
worse.
I mean, I know people are having a hard time. I know people are going through it, but I was like, most of the people don't have a savings account, so it's like, how do you fucking get by?
Exactly.
And I was surprised that I guess they, whoever is pulling the strings economically figured a way, not for there to be some kind of chaos. But
well, there's still like, you're not allowed to be evicted, I guess, still in New York. So I guess once those kind of things start coming unglued, it could be a real mess. I don't know. I have no idea. It's so baffling to me now, and I don't even want to. It's so boring to even talk about it at this point because it's so controversial and so political.
Right.
And it's so like, and everybody's just like enconced or whatever that word is in their space of either mask or no mask or like not seeing both sides of things. And then like, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posts the new numbers of the CDC saying that it's like half as deadly as the flu, even if you're elderly. And then even beyond that, and then, I like repost that to my stories. I send it to fucking Ehud. Ehud goes, you can't trust the CDC, literally.
Well, some of those numbers were from March.
Okay, but I'm just saying, it's like, that's what you face. There's no, there's
Who do you trust?
Okay.
Who do you trust?
Right.
No,
so there's it's just like, there's no conversation about it anymore. Because it's like, I think people have made up their minds and are going in the direction they're going.
Right.
In a way. Because even when evidence to the contrary comes out, it's like, I don't know. It's like, no, somebody even wrote me like, no, you got to multiply it by 100, so it's actually 5.4% death rate. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where you're getting. You got to multiply it by 100. But some, maybe
everything's better when you multiply it by 100.
I don't know, like, but that's the thing.
Your bank account,
exactly.
CDC numbers.
So, like, what are your feelings about all that? Like, in terms of like, do you think we should just open back up, or what's your? And if you don't even want to talk about it, I get it because it's controversial.
The thing is I don't have a problem with the controversy. I think that there's been, I've read what everybody has said, like checked out the David Icke stuff, checked out what our
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah, I like the David Icke stuff is pretty fascinating too.
And I always like to hear what the different opinions are. So
Me too.
It's like all right, let's. But the fact is that we're not being, even though that might be the case, that's not what the mandate is. They're like, well, you have to do. You're not gonna be able to do whatever you did. You're not going to be able to move. You're not going to mass gatherings and all these other things. And I think there's definitely one of the things David Icke was saying, where it was like they're trying to get rid of people that are kind of work for themselves and have their own thing, and artists and creators that are not part of the corporate America.
Right.
And I was like, well, damn.
Sounds right.
It pretty much did that. It's. But I think I think when this stuff happens, people are gonna learn to innovate. I think the difference between everyone's different opinions is that it's just kind of more for people to argue about and get engaged about, when actually there's like, what would we do if that was the case? It's like we're having a hard enough time just figuring out, like, you can't just throw somebody on the Supreme Court in a month, or just rush. We're having hard times like figuring out if the voting is gonna go down. So it's like how that's gonna go down. So
that's the biggest concern.
How would we find out if this was man-made, and if it was, like, what would we do?
And what difference does it even make?
Right.
In a way, it's like I that's the I don't know. Like,
I think the politics shit has just gotten so crazy because it's divided everybody, and then everyone's divided into two, and then everyone's got their own.
That's what I told you. Well, it's all political.
Did you ever hear Tim Dillon, that comedian? He's got a podcast. I was just listening.
Tim Dillon Show.
I was just listening to it today, and it was great what he was saying, because he was like, it's like the people that are anti-conspiracy won't even like humor any of the conspiracies, like, and so it creates this massive division, like where it's like, it's like even ones that are like, like JFK, nope, nothing to see here, or like, or 9/11 or anything. It's just like, it's this hard line in the sand. Yeah, he said it better than I can reiterate it, but it was cool because it seemed like he was trying to like talk sense to the whole situation. Like, not everybody, it's not black and white. There's shades of gray all in the middle, kind of thing.
It really is. And there's people that like I think that something happened in the Kennedy assassination, but there's people that I know and I trust, and I feel like they're level-headed that just think it happened.
Right. Or Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that was the big one, like Jeffrey Epstein, or,
right.
It's like, that's kind of an undeniable one. It's kind of like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit undeniable, that one.
Oh, when he got killed.
Well, yeah, or
killed himself.
Or killed himself, yeah. Like that type of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that end up, quote, dying in jail.
Right.
Killing themselves in jail. In that case, he knew a lot.
Yeah.
So you don't, but there's people that they were like, no, he died.
Right.
And so I think there's a group of people that don't want to go down that kind of thing. They don't want.
Yeah, they don't want any. It's like a mainstream media narratives is what they listen to, and anything outside of that, it just freaks them out. Right. And it's interesting, or science is a rap. But
Right.
science is question everything. That's the essence of science, is to question everything.
Right.
That is science. You know, not to say everything's a rap and we understand everything. We don't.
Yeah.
And I was just in Target the other day and it said, due to the coin shortage,
saw that
there was
sign. I
like
was like,
coin shortage signs at Target, and it's like, what? And I took a picture of it, and I almost like was gonna post like, this isn't suspicious, is it? Like, it's like, what the fuck's a coin shortage for?
Yeah, I got
like,
plenty of coins in my
They're
pocket.
running out of metal. It's like, give me a break. It's like they're trying to implement a cashless society so that they can implement more control.
It means that if there's no coins, there's going to be no change.
Get rid of that penny.
There's no way to flip a coin anymore.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's just, that's the David Icke thing where he talks about, like, getting the cashless society going, so then that way if you like deny the vaccine or you don't want to get the vaccine, then they can like, your card declines everywhere and you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, they're already starting to do that. It's mostly cashless, I think, in a lot of different countries. I think China has, a lot less cash. I think a lot of that transactions that they have are on one of the apps.
Have you written any tunes about this kind of? Because you are like into this sort of thought space,
right?
Has it come into your songs?
Well, I think pretty much. I mean, I think that all that, just the knowledge that you have, comes into everything that you write.
Yeah.
I think all that. I don't know if I write so pointed to be like, all right, this is just about this. Hopefully I use it as an analogy for something else. So, I think that the history that we've had in this country probably is, was designed, I think there was a design for it. I mean, just the sense that it was broken off by a group of people that wanted to start a new society. And so wherever that lands, and I think there are probably, there was this, there's a group of people, I don't know who they are. Like, I know there's different segments of people who think they are, but there's a group of people that kind of run shit.
The elite, you mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, but beyond that, I mean, I don't even think it's like, oh, that person is this group or that, whatever the name for it is. And I don't even, I do think, it's more than just elite. I think there are things going on that we don't know about. And I think
that seems pretty obvious lately.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think sometimes when people lose sight when they have a lot of money, so it's kind of hard to, you got to empathize with their situation, because it's just like, you've kind of lost sight of what the big picture is. I think it gets a little scary right now when you can't make any kind of changes because of economic reasons, whether it be why we can't figure out how to use energy or trains or all our education system. There seems like that are just basically kind of, we should have figured that out. We should have figured out the education thing.
Right.
You talking remote learning?
I mean, we should have figured out like how to educate our children, how to pay our teachers, how to make school something like actually beneficial to all the different ways that people learn.
Unless the motivation wasn't to actually teach.
To have an uneducated society.
Unless the motivation is to indoctrinate.
Right.
Then it makes perfect sense. And
exactly.
And it's working really well.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask something that you brought up, and this is for both of you as artists. I feel like what you said, where the artist gave everything away, and Sign gave away the music, and like, okay, it's touring and merch,
right?
And that went away now. There was that thing that Live Nation posted after a while, when they would come back, they would charge artists more, pay artists less, not offer guarantees. isn't it like a unique situation where artists can sort of fight back now to take that back and like rewrite the rules with Live Nation and the touring deals and the music, because there's this whole halt that created this unique situation to maybe not go back to being used and abused by the big concert promoters and the big companies and take the power back.
Well, here's what I feel about that. Is I think the music system has an ecosystem. The music industry's ecosystem between it doesn't work together. So it's like the artists have their own ecosystem, managers, promoters, and record companies kind of work a little bit better together. And so there's not, they don't want to mess up that in you know, fear of the artist, just for the artist, because they look at artists as a 5-year plan. You know, it either going to blow up and they're going to do well, make the majority of their money in 5 years, or it's like they're not. And so like a manager can go on to get another artist, and a label can do the same thing, and the promoter doesn't have any. So I think there just is that there's something that's not happening right. And I don't think artists like just have not come together. It's just a weird thing, I think, because, and also the way it happens when you're doing well in that system, you're not really crying foul.
Right.
You know, so it's like when you've been kind of, when the checks come in and they're not what they were supposed to be for that, then they're like, oh, okay. You know, and really, you know, you're young when you sign away your life. It's just pretty much what you do when you sign a record label, and you're broke most likely, and most likely you come from some weird fucking
fucked up shit.
Yeah, so it's like personally, socially, culturally, or whatever it is that you've been struggling with. It's like, you know, it's not the most group of kind of like, you know, we're not the group of like, you know, psychologically sound group, and not saying that like we're
That's
crazy.
real true. That's real true.
It's you know, you got people that are wanting to say something for a reason, and they're putting themselves out there for a reason. I think, you know, if you look down the list of people and like why we have the struggles that we have with you know, all the problems we have with financially, with finding family, with with
are you reading my mail? No, I'm just kidding.
Drugs or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Really, I know
like,
what you're saying.
And you know, sometimes I hear about guys that, you know, OD'd or passed away, and I didn't even know their music, but it just kind of like always kind of makes me a little upset about the shit, or if they killed themselves or something like that, because it's like, even if I wasn't personally involved, it's like, man, fuck, you know, you know what that is. And
people know that shit. My friend Donnie Graves called me up a few weeks ago and had said, you know, I never really listened to all your albums. And I like went on a binge and I listened to all your records. And he goes, the fact that you didn't kill yourself is a miracle. That's all he said. So it's like that, you know. And I took it as a compliment. I don't even know what he meant by it, but
it's probably because, you know, you had so much good stuff, you know.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting, because there is that thing like Nick Drake. I always think of him. He was 26, I guess, when he died from an overdose of antidepressants, or maybe killed himself or what. But I think of him as like one of the most tragic examples. Obviously, there's tons of them, Hendrix but Hendrix, at least he elevated and broke the culture wide open. So did Nick Drake, but it came later, and Nick Drake never got to see it. And I just think back then it was like, if you didn't already make it by the time you were 26, 27, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
You know? But now it's not like that.
I mean, I've heard, you know, things where he did make it, even though Hendrix whatever made it, you know, he's still struggling with those things that drove him there. You know, I think one of the things with artists, like, we use this kind of fuel that drives us, and then at some point that doesn't work anymore. So it's like we have to kind of like elevate beyond that, or else, you know, you can crash and burn.
And what do you use to elevate beyond that? What elevates you beyond that?
I mean, you struggle with that friggin' thing all the time, man. It's like, because like for years I was like the same way, like what your friend was saying about, oh man, fuck, I gave him these 4 fucking, like, I gave him 4 fucking hits on one record and they didn't get 1 on the fucking joint.
Right.
And that was like back then when like it really mattered.
It mattered.
Like it was kind of like you had to get this or that.
Or you're out.
Or you're fucking gone.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey man, stay around and make 3 records for us.
Right.
We'll it was like, and people would be real, we straight up about it,
Yeah.
And it was kind of like when it gets left to that, it gets start people, there's things that, artists are insecure. So that shit comes back to them and they're like, oh God, I didn't do this. And it's like later on, you don't have the support. And I think back in the day, like there were really good music people that gave artists support and were able to kind of like help them go somewhere that they didn't even expect they could go themselves. And I think that foundation is so important. And I think it kind of like in our era, it was just kind of crumbled.
I got lucky with that because I was on Peter Gabriel's label and he did mentor me and introduced me to a world that I wouldn't have found otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And an education that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. But there was also,
you got success in the beginning.
I had moments of success. I mean, success is relative, but
completely.
So I've had, it's however you measure success. But there was also, that was also had problems in it. It wasn't perfect. There was like, because you're going. In that case, I was on a label that was on a label,
right?
So but there was a lot of support there, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. I mean, I think that was existing. I had some really cool people that were involved, on the creative side as well. But then it, like the marketing promotion part is really when it's like, all right, well, we have to either be really creative here to do that, or else, we're gonna lose money. And then you get the call and you're sitting with the president and it's like, hey man,
I never got a call. What I got was my calls stopped getting returned, or all of a sudden it was hard to get so-and-so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why I think we're both similar in that we both came about this in a very unique way, and we're kind of unique in a way that could have hindered it also.
Yeah, because it wasn't like on that category that you had to kind of left to center.
Right.
And you had to have people around you being like, left to center is cool.
Right.
And like there's been records that they've made left to center records like mainstream. So I think that's like, but the bottom line, when a major wants you or whatever, they want you to sell records.
Yeah. And one of the things I always think about with you is how Rita Houston absolutely loves you.
Oh, I love her.
Like
she loves both you guys.
Yeah, but
for a reason.
She loves you, Joe.
She does love me. No, shout out Rita. No, I feel the love.
She really loves you.
I know that. But she loves you. And like she's one of these people, like very rare gems of a human that like promote, like
it's amazing. Like I recently I had to write Rita a letter, man, because like I've said it to her a couple times, but I was just like, it really made an effect, a positive effect on my life. Mm-hmm. And just to be able for her to step outside of the bounds and be like, I'm gonna play him. I don't care what the fuck they're doing.
She plays you, man, all the time.
And it's like, and also you hear it from people that have heard the music on her station, and it's like it had meant something to them. So it's like wild how powerful a DJ can be. Like just not for my music, but for for people's music that just gets heard and helps them through the fucking day.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
She's one of the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, but she's not wrong. Like the two of you, there's something there that that warrants what she did.
Right.
I mean, she just didn't just do it. I mean, your first album,
I
thought was amazing. Same with his.
Right.
And I got to tell one funny story is I first discovered you in 2001. I went to see live at Roseland.
Oh my God.
You opened?
Yeah.
He opened. I got there early by accident.
Yeah.
And he opened, and it was just you and your guitar.
Oh, okay.
And he blew me the fuck. Oh, it was like better than the live show.
Thank you.
And then I went and I bought your album, and I loved the album. But then anyone I asked about, do you hear No Citizen Cope? Nobody knew about you.
Yeah.
And then the first album didn't do that well.
Right.
At first. And there used to be this music
nice.
store.
It flopped.
No, but but let me finish the story. There used to be Sounds on St. Mark's. I used to go there. They had the dollar bins. And every time I'd go there, your album was there. And
that's where you don't want to see. Like when I would walk into a record store like that and see my record in the dollar bin, I'd be like, damn.
It gets better. And then I kept.
It's like I got to buy this.
Every time I saw the album there, I would buy it. And I bought at least 25 copies of it. And whenever I'd see a friend, I'd give them the album. Like, you got it. There was no downloads there or whatever. So I'd give people copies of that album. And you were sort of the underdog because it did take a minute, your second album, your third album, but then you fucking skyrocketed.
Yeah, you skyrocketed.
And I was like, I told you this guy was good. Like, there was something there. And I saw you at the Mercury Lounge, 2002. It was just you on a stool. And next to you, you had your disc player with the beats on it. And you'd press play, and the beats would start, and you'd play guitar, and you sat in the middle of the room. There weren't a lot of people there. But, you know, the underdog.
Yeah, I mean it was crazy because it's wild that you bought those CDs because it was at that time when I put that first record out with DreamWorks and I'd signed with them and I could have signed with different people, but I was like, I went with them and did the record and I let the drummer kick was on it but that wasn't really. You know, the record, I think, sold like 15,000 copies or something.
I bought 25 of those.
Which now would be pretty decent.
Which now would be, but like for them, it was like, fuck.
Yeah, no, that's a flop back then.
Yeah, and they were like, so I written a couple new songs, and I was like, I wasn't getting the vibe, because I played them Sun's Gonna Rise, and I played them Sideways. And I wasn't getting the vibe that they were going to pick it up.
If they couldn't hear Sideways,
like man. they were like, well, like, you know, some are good songs, but they're just, you know, they're just not marketable. And then I was like,
it's because they already made their mind up.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, well, and it turned out I had Sideways, so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna put that on the first record because if you don't hear that, you guys got.
Problem.
If there's love and drummers,
every human can hear that one. Come on.
I was like, you guys go
listen to that. If you don't know his music, go listen to Sideways right now. And then pause the podcast, listen to Sideways.
Drummer kick or Contact or This Is Love.
Yeah. You know. So I had, and I'm still trying to push the record, whatever, to the AAA format, which whatever, it didn't happen, and then. And Santana had heard Sideways, and their company called me and was like, Carlos might want to do this.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck. And I was like, I was one of those calls because it was like, first his A&R heard it, and then the president heard it, then Carlos heard it, and he loved it, and Carlos's family loved it. And like everyone was trying to get on that record because the previous one, it was like sold a gazillion copies. So everybody was writing, and like 5 writers for every song and producers. Like that shit was done. And Carlos was like, I just want to play guitar on it. And so, went out there, cut the song. I didn't know it was going to be on it, got on the record. And when I was at Arista, because that's who did it, they were like, you really want to stay on DreamWorks? You did a dope record and it never came out. And I was like, it never really popped off. And I was like, no, I kind of like it here. Where
do I sign?
It was like, so I had to ask DreamWorks to get off the label because I had a guaranteed second record. Mm. And that was a tough conversation because I really did like Lenny Walker, who was there. And so I was,
But he let you go?
he let me go. I had to give him like $100,000.
Damn.
For like.
And counterfeit $50 bills.
No.
Nice.
Let's
hope so.
Yeah. I mean, just off the budget. Wow. It essentially came off the budget of my record with Arista.
Right.
So I was like, I got in the studio for the Clarence Greenwood recordings, and it wasn't like I couldn't hire, like that was, you couldn't hire an engineer. I was just like, let's have I just went to the Electric Lady, cut a real good deal with them, like on a month to month basis, and had the house engineer do the thing.
Which is fine.
Who turned out to be fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was like, Stave really added to it, and just spent a lot of time making the record. And then there's a studio in DC that I did those demos at, went back and did a couple more songs, had an old Harrison board, sounded really good. So I just spent a lot of time on it and was like, let me listen to and follow my first instinct. And that was like something that I'd kind of lost traction of, so it was that.
But you got it back.
Yeah. And that record ended up like before the new record came out on an Arista, which never came out on Arista because they folded, but that's another story.
That happens all the time.
And then the CD, that CD was going for like $50 on eBay because DreamWorks.
Wait, the one I used to buy? Yeah. Oh my God.
Because DreamWorks had taken it off the shelf, and nobody. So there was enough little buzz about it. But there were no CDs in the store, so on eBay it was like going for.
Makes sense.
That worked in your favor. Probably.
Yeah. So
what happened after Arista folded then, or did you have a hit with Santana?
No, it wasn't a hit. They never did it as a single, and I was allowed to put it on my next record.
Right.
It's without Carlos, so it was originally without Carlos, so I just used the original version, put that record out. And that one was a slow burn too. Yeah. That didn't come off. But then I started doing this residency in New York, DC, Philly, and Boston. And, managers at the time were like, this is a little ambitious. And I was like, but there were clubs. And it kind of like, I just felt like I didn't really tour like I should have on the first record. I did some opening slots, but I didn't establish the region as far as like kind of just doing that small kind of area, kind of hit him, just kept on coming back. And then I'd convinced Arista to let me give the whole CD away. So I was giving the whole album away this whole time.
Greenwood recording?
The Greenwood recording, yeah. And so that was like the number one thing I could have done, because there was kind of like a buzz on the record before it came out, because once that, and then Arista closed, and then RCA picked it up because they were under Sony. And so they were like, all right, we'll take it. And then I was able to have the record, there was buzz on the record before it came out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How many records have you put out?
I think 6. It was about to be 7.
And that's the acoustic thing, right?
Yeah.
How's that one going?
It's good. It's out. I mean, it's done. I guess we're pressing up some vinyl for it right now.
Did you release it?
No, it's not released yet. So we're going to do some vinyl and then put it out on,
on your own?
In the stream world.
On your own label, or are you on a label?
Through Missy. She's going to do
Megaforce?
Megaforce?
Yeah.
Shout out Missy.
Shout out Missy.
Nice.
So,
how did the Clapton phone call go?
Actually, he was
he was too slow.
Damn, dude.
My friend Scooter worked with Eric on some different stuff. I think Clapton had heard Sideways in Ghost Town and was like, hey, I like the guy. And then Scooter was like, he's really cool. I know him. His whole shit is cool. And then they asked me to do that thing. I'm not a good blues guitar player, so it was kind of a different thing, but it was.
What did you do, like a blues festival with Eric Clapton?
Well, it's all pretty. Crossroads is all like blues artists and guitar players, pretty much.
So did the acoustic thing come by way of like just this whole? Were you already planning on an acoustic album, or did it come from this quarantine shit?
I've been trying to do an acoustic record,
too,
and then they fucking never. I'm not like always upset. Like
I can't do. I'm already failing on the one I'm trying to make right now because I'm producing it. I put beats on it.
Yeah.
G.E. Smith played on it. Shout out G.E. Smith. He like started overdubbing on it, and it was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
it's better with some overdubs.
Right.
I couldn't deny it.
Yep.
So it messed up my plan of like, this is going to be solo acoustic.
Yeah.
Is your solo acoustic?
It's solo acoustic.
Wow.
But it's you know, I fought with that for years, and I had to go back to do songs that was the first record that never came out on Capitol, which is called Shotguns. And so I did like 6 of those songs.
Okay.
And then like 3 new ones, and then a Randy Newman cover.
Nice.
So it's really slow, and it has no beats on it. So
you like it?
I like it.
Back to
I think
basics.
there's some really cool songs on it. I think, you know, it's not for the. I think you got to listen to it and sit with it for a while.
So where'd you record it?
Some of it just in my bathroom with the house.
Yeah.
Kind of an open mic, and then I recorded a couple at a studio.
Yeah.
So.
What kind of mic do you have at home?
You know, I got this one that it's like I don't even know the name of it, but it's kind of a new company.
Wonder?
I should have had that fucking name. I might have got one for free.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is it Wonder?
No, it was actually the drum doctor. I get a lot of drum, like he has a whole bunch of drums in LA.
I know the drum doctor.
Not the one here, but there's one in LA.
No, in LA.
Yeah.
That's who I used with T-Bone Burnett.
That dude is bad.
He's badass. Jim Keltner came in on my session and had the drum doctor.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. The
That's
drum doctor is somebody that comes in, for those people who don't know, like, and tunes sets up the drums, like for like heavy hitting drummers and heavy hitting sessions. He'll come in, set up the drums, tune them up, make sure it's all like completely intense.
Yeah, and then what kind of drum set you want? I mean, there's a lot of them. A lot of
science.
sounds are those in those
science,
those
and money.
Yeah,
and sets the mics in certain places.
No,
and all
that's
that?
the engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sets the drums.
But they tune them right and all this other shit. I mean, how was it working with Keltner?
Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been blessed to work with him on several occasions. Well, I worked with him on 3 albums on Come to Where I'm From. And that was just with T-Bone Burnett and in LA. It was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
You know, to have that experience. Like, that's when I had Virgin really excited about it at that point, and they were like throwing lots of money that way. And it was like a trip just to get to experience that.
Yeah.
You know, Carla Azar, who plays with Jack White a lot now, she was also on that session. But then Keltner, came back around and worked on My Fistful of Mercy, the thing I did with Ben Harper and Danny Harrison.
Yeah.
So he played on that record too.
Wow.
And then the next solo record I made after that, which was the Graduation Ceremony, he also played on that.
That was magical.
And it's pretty magical to play with him.
Yeah, man.
You could barely hear him, but he's
can only
there.
imagine. Yeah, I mean, just
You can hear him.
Well, it seems effortless.
It's effortless. He's
Yeah.
like, you know, he's doing this thing. It's like, sounds like just incredible. And you look into the studio through the window, and he's kind of like just like adjusting shit while he's, you know, like putting a stick down. But it just sounds like seamless. It just has magic to it.
one of the best, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever played with him?
No, I listened to a lot of the stuff he played on. Played a lot of the Lennon stuff. Like the solo Lennon stuff, and
right.
Man, yeah,
You love Lennon too?
I love him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Me
think
too.
he was able to kind of get into that stratosphere, you know, where whatever that is, just kind of really connect to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel to connect to people the way you do? Like when you play in a show, like when people are like, you know, the whole like big full house at Electric Factory in Philly singing Sideways. You don't even have to sing. They're
Right.
singing the whole song.
I'm just starting to really kind of enjoy it for the first time, because like I always felt like, oh man, I gotta impress people, and then all these people are here, you know. Just kind of chill out, you know. That's, you said something about what I learned during COVID. I think one thing is just I haven't trusted as much as I should be trusting, you know, and that's also all these words that I thought like they're just kind of cliches and shit, like kind of start to make sense now.
Like what?
I don't know, like faith,
yeah,
like, you know, love,
yeah,
you know, all these things that you've heard all your life, you know, that kind of, you know what they mean, but then you're just kind of having a different perspective on it, but trust is something that, you know, obviously you think trust, you think, okay, a million different things, you know, I trust you, okay, you're not going to cheat on me or something. Right. But it's like not, or you know, but that's where trust goes, instead of being like, you know, obviously you can cheat on somebody worse than a lot of ways than
fidelity.
Yeah. So but I guess maybe having a little bit more trust in things, because I always kind of fought my way in. You know, I felt like I had to fight my way in.
Yeah.
You know, to get to that point. And then it'd be like, all right, well, damn, people like it. Chill the fuck out.
It's interesting. Honestly, dude, it's interesting you bring that up, because when I was watching you in Philly on New Year's Eve, I was like, you exuded that quality that you're speaking of wanting more of, which is, to me, you exuded effortlessness.
Right.
It was effort. It just seems totally effortless, and I was kind of envious, because that particular gig was a gig where I was kind of off, and also I was opening, so it wasn't really, you know.
Yeah.
And I was feeling like I put in, you know, sometimes you catch yourself putting too much effort in.
Right.
It was one of those for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I didn't totally flank it or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't me. Like, it wasn't me when I'm in that like locked in zone where it's just like, everything I do is gonna be magic, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that when you're opening a show. It's
that's
like
true.
It's almost like you going out there, like, fuck
that proving yourself thing.
Yeah,
it gets in the way though, because what that does is it engages the ego, and then once the ego's on stage with you, and the ego needs to be on stage with you to a degree, but once it's too much to a degree, then you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because then the spirit says, okay, I'm dipping.
Yeah. But it's really about that fucking spirit.
It
like,
is.
It's so weird. Like,
yeah.
Because you know it when you start, and all these things come back around, and then you're like, okay, well, that's the soul, the genesis of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if these fucking people are texting right now that's in the audience, or, you know, scream something crazy to you, or like whatever it is that you kind of tend to lose your focus on. Or even the song, you're like, oh, I'm not fucking this up, you know, just let it take you.
The crowd is like a dog. They can smell fear too.
Fuck yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Like, when you start getting afraid up there, forget it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude, it's bad.
Yeah.
What was your worst show?
I've had a few of those. Like what do you mean worst?
Like the crowd that you just felt, it was just like
fucking
a disaster.
Opening up for Ben Folds the whole fucking tour.
Oh really?
It was right when my record came out.
Which one?
We
first
talked
one?
The first one, yeah. It was right 9/11. It was actually 9/11 happened while we were on tour. We were actually in DC. And that audience, you know, and I had, like you say, I had
the disc man.
Oh, you did the disc thing.
The label
I bootleg that show. I could send you an audio of
the
it.
label wouldn't, you know, they were like, no, you can't
budget.
You can't bring a band. So I mean, it's like, and they saw me do that before. Oh, that's pretty cool,
right?
And so
it is pretty cool.
Yeah,
but it's a little ahead of its time though, because now that would fly now.
Yeah.
You know, but then it's like, wait a minute, that's not even a real drummer, man.
It's not
this.
even played.
Like so were you getting serious boos or anything like that, or was it?
I was getting harassed by
Really?
Revenge of the Nerds.
They can harass.
Was that the Suburbs tour where he was doing piano?
It was dope. He had that. Yeah, he
Or
was
the full
playing
band?
piano, and he was fucking phenomenal. Like I didn't go in there like necessarily being a Ben Folds fan,
Rocking the Suburbs.
but I was like, yeah, that shit when he was talking about. He had this song called "You Are Not the Same" after that, about some guy that went up and took acid, and the day he graduated, and, you know, it's kind of like, you know, changed and gave his life to Jesus and all this stuff. And it was like, he was like, you were not the same after that. And they were jamming. Their band was really jamming.
Yeah, he's talented.
Yeah. So, but I was like getting killed by his audience. But probably 2 or 3 shows, it wasn't as bad. I think that's when the internet had started. So it was like they started just, there were already shit in the internet. And I didn't even know about the internet.
Wow.
I get there and it was like, it was pretty bad. I remember the lady from Showbox, Holly, she worked there, and I got fucking reamed that night. And
what do you mean?
Pretty much just abused on stage.
Did she ream you or no?
No,
the audience?
She came back and she was like, oh man, those guys, don't listen to them. And then it was great because like 2 years later, I had like sold 3 nights out at the Showbox.
Nice.
I was headlining.
That's revenge. That's Revenge of the Nerds for the Revenge of the Nerds.
And she'll tell that story. She loves that story. I love it too. Oh, she's like, you remember?
How many shows total was that tour? You remember?
I think it was maybe 20.
And how did you, like, were you going like, holy shit, can I keep doing this? Or how did you keep the focus? How'd you keep together through that? Because that's like facing 20 of those.
I was just like I was just like, whatever, you know, I just had to do it. I had to take my licks on that one, man.
Right.
Like it was pretty, it was like, I think one show at the Fox in LA, there was like people were listening. It was good.
Right.
But for the most part, it was torture.
It's good for people to hear that though.
Yeah.
You know, because of where you are now.
Yeah, like, and I've been fucking, you know, like open mics and shit like that. I've had, should I not be cursing?
I curse sometimes.
Cursing up too much. I'm sorry, you guys.
We excuse us our language.
Cursing is the least of our problems.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, I don't know what I was saying, but
Open
mics I'd had experiences like that, you know, but not when it was like a whole crowd of people. So it was my friend Chris, who was with me driving the van on that tour, he was like, it's just like, man, it's like almost like when you step up on stage, they're just appalled by you.
Triggers.
You were triggering them. So you used to be a pretty heavy weed smoker, but then you got allergic to it or something?
Yeah. I didn't realize I was super allergic to it. So I went away where I couldn't smoke one couple weeks and wasn't sneezing and all this other stuff. And I'll puff a little bit now, sprinkle a little bit here and there, but not.
I just recently knocked it on the head again.
Right.
I love it. I love the clarity I feel as soon as I knock it on the head again.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I love weed though. Weed is like, it is like sort of like if you, especially for songwriting, sometimes like a whole song will just land if you haven't smoked in a long time, and then you smoke
a little something,
and all of a sudden it lands.
Yeah.
You know, for that it's great.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe for watching a movie or something, it's great.
Yeah.
For a lot of things, it's great, but it's also great to not smoke.
Yeah.
The clarity is like amazing.
I didn't realize how much I like stopped for a while and I had to hit somebody's vape pen. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, I'm fucking high. Like, I don't really remember being high, like having anxiety a little bit, like scared to like, you know, talk kind of thing. It was just, but you know, I started smoking a little bit, but I stopped drinking like 6 months ago, which is a big one for me.
Nice.
So that was like,
congrats.
Yeah, that was one that kind of got, you know, because I had like the stage fright thinking happening, and then like being a party every night, you know.
Right, because life on the road can be a part. Actually, I smoked weed right before I opened up for you. That's what happened.
Right.
I was paranoid all of a sudden.
You got anxious.
I got the fear.
Yeah. It happens. You like,
shouldn't do that when
you're
opening.
Smoked, yeah.
You could do that when you're the headliner. You can smoke weed when you're the headliner. You can't when you're the opener.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that catches you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of gets like, when I say party on the road, just like that it is set in a club usually where you're playing and there's a lot of alcohol. So I think a lot of people get into like, if you got stage fright, you have a couple or afterwards. And then I realized like after a show, the adrenaline is so heavy. And
it's
I was
heavy. Reading
about this shit on like, there's an article in The Guardian or some shit. And it was talking about that actually there's something that happens to with the adrenaline and the chemicals that go through that when you perform. And so I did one of these live streams and I was just kind of feeling like, you know, I hadn't been drinking. It was one of the first ones. I didn't have a drink afterwards or something. Because that's when I would normally get going with that. And then I was like, oh shit, that's what was kind of calling me right there to kind of like cool that down.
Right.
And then realizing that I just had to go with that energy, you know, feel that.
What'd you do with it?
I kind of meditated on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like was driving back in the car and just kind of went into like a stillness, like just feeling it, you know, being aware of it. And like, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
It was a weird thing.
It's nice when you can like empower yourself to not go for those typical crutches and watch yourself sort of override. It's an ecstatic feeling when you like lay bad habits to the side and overcome them. That is an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I love it.
It's you know, shit, fasting for days on.
Well,
crazy.
That's part of it too.
Yeah.
Like thinking
it's
of
like
that.
Discipline.
It's like some wild discipline.
Yeah. So many people are like, you're not eating anything. You can't eat anything.
Right.
And it's just like.
Yeah. Well, when you research the benefits of it, it's just like this. It is the way I look at it is like, okay, so I'm not eating for these 3 days, but I'm probably giving myself 6 more months of life at least by doing this.
Yeah.
So how many meals do I get to eat in 6 months?
Yeah.
A lot.
Right.
So think, you know, that's the way I look at it. It's almost like if you're gonna fast, those days are erased.
Yeah.
They're free days because
Right.
you're definitely giving your body more life. There's no way you're not.
Yeah. Have you ever gone down the rabbit hole of that one too? It's like, you know, we were talking about conspiracy theories and everything. It's like anything with health. It's like, what's the diet? What do you do? Oh, some people think this is the right diet. That's the right diet. People will say you should never fast for more than so and so. You know, it's just
endless.
You don't have. Everyone's got an opinion on it. I think it's really what your fucking body tells you to do.
The good thing about him, he's every now and then he just goes on a all meat, all this, no this, all veggie.
Yeah,
I tried a lot of things. Yeah. I think it's. I don't know, man. I was actually listening to somebody last night that was talking about I forget his name, but he was kind of a fasting person, but more like he was talking about don't overdo it with the fasting and how a vegan diet is really like vegan plus like pescatarian diet is really good up until you're like 60 and then introduce meat like when you get older.
Right.
Like and like he's a longevity expert and he was talking about like even like 80-year-olds eating like some 80-year-old or some like 100 and something year olds were eating raw meat, all kinds of wild stuff. But
like the keto thing kicks in later.
The keto thing or protein versus carbohydrates and all that stuff. But it's like, I don't know. I've tried the carnivore diet and that was like,
I was watching when you were doing that. Yeah.
I got clear.
There
was definitely clarity involved I trimmed right more than I usually am.
Yeah.
It was like,
is there any more to trim over there, Poppy?
yeah, not right now because I've just done a 3-day fast, but like there was, you know. So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you ever fuck around with? You do a cooking show.
Yeah,
It's not
chilling
really-
with Coke.
Chilling
Not
with
really a
Coke.
cooking show. It's just
Supporting local businesses.
I do that cooling with coke thing where I just go to businesses that are in the town, if they're like mom and pop places, and just kind of just giving them a big up. You know, it's just something to do out there. It gives me a chance to be kind of show something different, the touring life, the travel. So it's like the poor man's Anthony Bourdain.
It's awesome.
But it's also, you know,
But you cook though too. I've seen stuff
I've done
in the
some
kitchen, like where.
I started doing this moqueca, this Brazilian moqueca,
What's that?
which is like a fish stew,
Nice.
which is amazing.
That
When I was in
sounds so
Brazil,
good to me right now, dude.
I was in Brazil. It was, you gotta have it. I'll give you the recipe.
Okay.
It's
Did
I do
you
it.
tour South America?
I did Brazil like 7 shows before this whole
Wow.
COVID thing happened.
Yeah, that's where you're heading right after Philly.
Yeah, I was
Really?
going
How are
right
the
there.
crowds there for you? Different
They were
than
good.
The US?
They were good. It was like some of them were multiple band shows, so it was like, but there was like more people that you thought like, you know, oh shit, you know the lyrics. There's some people out there that know the music, so it was cool. And then I was getting in on that moqueca, and I was like, I gotta figure out how to make this thing.
And you got the recipe?
I got a recipe. Mine's kind of like not authentic moqueca because I'm using vegetable stock instead of fish stock. And
Why?
I don't know. I thought the fish was going to be fishy enough.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense.
Enough fish.
you know, I don't have a problem but it was, I don't know. I just tried that and put some coconut in it. Kind of just did my thing. I got this fast, slow cooker. And then like just looked up a recipe and
Fast, slow cooker.
yeah, whatever those things are. Like crock pot.
Yeah, but a fast version.
Yeah. So
So and now you're staying over at the Bowery?
I'm staying over there.
Are you like touring or something? Like
No, I had a show in the Hamptons and it got canceled.
Oh.
The governor canceled like the day a show came out, and then a day later it was like no ticketed show. So we thought we were going to be able to like slide under the radar, but then from then until the time, you know, when I was doing these Massachusetts show, they're like, man, they're going to take people's liquor licenses. You can't do it.
That's wild, isn't it? Because it's like that part makes you go into the David Icke thing a little bit, because there's why put those kind of stipulations on it? You can't have. I was talking to Michael from City Winery.
Yeah.
You know,
You were going to do a couple shows there, too, that got canceled.
Yeah.
and same thing. It's like, you know, not allowed to sell tickets to see live music at all.
It's just weird.
It's weird.
It doesn't make sense, and
It's any event, not just live. It's also sports or anything that has to do with ticketed events.
I think they have sports. Some sports are doing ticketed events.
Yeah, I think
Not in
so.
the state of New York.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's just wild. I mean, I think that the fact is, you know, one thing I did learn, back to what you were saying, is I think the people really do want to see some music. I think that
They
actually,
need it.
you know, it really is kind of something that, you know, a lot of people, you know, just it's something they need. So it's like that's what we do is, you know.
It does seem to be like the soul of humanity is under attack. You know, either consciously or
Completely.
Yeah.
Did you watch this social
Dilemma.
Bro,
The
this
social
fucking
dilemma.
crazy. This crazy, dude. When I was watching it right when I was just texting you. I paused it to come do this.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so funny. I got about like 20 minutes into it because everybody been talking about it.
Yeah, I watched it.
I'm about to finish it
Yeah.
after this.
It's crazy.
Made my daughter watch it.
Yeah.
You know, what'd you think?
How old is she?
She's 9, so
It's
you
bad
see
for people with kids.
you
man.
see the thing with the kids, man. I mean, the children, like you try to keep. I try to keep all that shit away from them, and then it's just like, okay, well,
It's impossible.
now they're on computers to do friggin' school, which is crazy.
Which also seems conspiratorial.
Yeah.
Like all this is like designed to like make us stare into screens more and more and more. And there's all this AI they're supposedly developing and utilizing more information that they need.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all about engagement, and it's showing how, like, when people arguing, they like that arguing because it brings more engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So the engagement kind of, like, I guess, makes it seem like it's worthwhile, I guess, when people are applying and arguing over politics and all this crap, you know? It's just like...
Yeah.
But there's been a couple movies about that kind of stuff. I think what was the other one that they did? It had to do with
Social Network?
No, about it was kind of like about the voting, about what was going on with Brexit and then the U.S. and also they were kind of influencing all these other different countries. What the
bleep?
No, it had something to do, hack or something.
I never heard of it.
Some kind of hack one. It was so I was kind of a little bit prepared for that one, and but there's been some. I haven't really heard that much like sensible stuff. I heard this guy that used to work at Facebook. His name is Chamath Priatra or something like that. He's from India originally, or was born there but moved, or from Shangri-La and then moved to like Canada, and ended up becoming a tech guy and then has his own thing. But he was saying he just thought that the government should just see everyone's W-9s or whatever they pay taxes on and pay it, because he felt like people in their money in their hands would be better than paying out like the major corporations, which were, he calls them like dummy companies or that were propping them up, you know, all these companies, and like, you would let American Airlines go down, and he was like, absolutely, you know. So I think there's just some. Because we always do this thing where we say, "Oh, what about the employees?" But the employees aren't really. They always want to put a soft spot for people like the employees. But he was breaking it down like, if a company goes bankrupt, then it's just restructured and sold, and the employees actually end up owning more of the company than they would in the situation. So I mean, they kind of threw him off real quick. But
so what's this guy's name again?
Chamath.
Hard to pronounce.
You gotta look it up.
Can you look it up?
Yeah.
He's got a company called Social Capital.
I like all this stuff, like save local music venues, like the small music venues,
right.
You know, like the Troubadour apparently is like under duress, and all of them are under duress, obviously, you know. Bowery Electric and all that.
Hapitia.
So look up that guy.
Check him out. He's
Sri Lankan-born Canadian-American venture capitalist and the founder and CEO of Social Capital.
Word. So, but like,
Not Shangri-La, Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Did I say Shangri-La?
No, I said it like an idiot.
So, but I just think it might end up being a question of rebelling. It's weird because everything's so political, but I'm just wondering, like, because I think, like, if they try to lock everybody down again, say, or do something like that,
right,
like, they will just crush, you know, live music venues. That'll be a wrap on that for a while, and a wrap on live music to a degree.
I think it's a huge bad thing, because the live music venues are gonna have to be sold to Live Nation or whoever. Maybe some independent promoters will come out of it and start doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. But really, there's no. I mean, this is like going to be 2 years. Who's going to survive like 2 years?
Right.
You know, you might have a couple like pop up things, but that goes back to the ecosystem that we haven't been supporting each other, you know. And it's like,
right.
I think the artist, there still isn't a save the artist kind of thing,
right?
You know, so it's like it's kind of, and no offense to say the stages, but there's like a lot of people that when you come in and do a show, people go out to eat, they get babysitters, they, you know, it's just like with Broadway, there's all this stuff around it that people spend money on. So that's why I'm like, how the fuck is this gonna last? Like, no Broadway.
Yeah.
You know, look how many people fly into New York for that specific reason.
Yeah, the money
go
that
out
New York
eat,
doesn't have anymore because of that.
You know, and then
crazy.
And it's just us playing shows. Like some people fly to a show or drive 6 hours to go see a show. So it's like the kind of compounded, you know, effect of what people kind of do to go see around that show is really important, and those venues have given people an opportunity to perform and people to go see safely. And
wait staff, all the people that work at the venues, shout out to them, you know.
The best, man. It's like, you know, the thing is we're going to lose a lot of those people because they're probably, you know, skilled at something else, and they did this because they love the shit. You know, it's not, nobody's getting in this so to be like, oh, okay, you know, we're going for IPOs, you know.
Right.
It's like people that do play music or in a crew or part of a club, they love it. They do that shit because they love it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that people will ultimately rebel, or do you think people will just let it die?
What do you mean, people?
Just a community of people that say, fuck it, we're going to start doing shows anyway? Or do you think, or is that just impossible because liquor licenses will
people are doing it.
I mean, people are doing house concerts.
Also, like comedians are doing pop-ups in Central Park. There's like, people find a way.
Yeah, I think pop-ups will happen. I think that's probably the next wave, just popping up somewhere and doing it.
There's no other choice.
But then there's no way to monetize it, so then you're like running around trying to like, you know,
put the hat out there.
Yeah.
And soon it's going to be cold out, so that's really not going to be an option.
Yeah, so I mean, you have that. I would just hope that at some point the artists kind of get together and figure the thing out and kind of realize our potential.
Start a union.
We need to start a union.
Yeah, 100%. Singer-songwriter union.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, man. Because it was like, all that shit is like, even with them selling the stuff to the different ISPs, you know, kind of devalued the longevity or the music in a lot of ways. So all that, you know, we didn't really sign up for that when we signed this record company deals, you know, all that, and all your music kind of gets put out somewhere like that, and then so it becomes, you know, I guess now it's like everything for the last year or 2 years, like everybody talks about Spotify, like, oh yeah, anybody you talk, yeah, we got people who can get you on a Spotify playlist.
That's the new MTV.
Fuck you guys,
it's like,
give me my money.
It's like playlists, and then there's like these people that are like the gatekeepers of the playlist.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then you have the you know, and they're
based on nothing. But
it's like, okay, and then you know, but they're the chief, and that shit is not going away. Like, it's not going away because they have the majority of it, and
they just got Joe Rogan.
See
the controversy around that already? Oh, man.
They spent a lot of money on him.
He had to apologize for something he said on a podcast. He's never really done that before.
What did he say?
It's I don't want to go all into it. I don't know the details.
Okay, I'll look
and
it up.
it's such a viral story. It's like on YouTube and everything. It was something about the Portland something. I don't know. I don't know the details of what he said.
Did Spotify make him apologize?
Apparently that's the vibe. And now there's like Spotify employees are wanting to like do a walkout if they can't edit his or censor his shows, this, that, and the other. That's the rumor going around.
He'll address it, I'm sure.
So yeah, maybe. But
so they're the new major label.
Yeah.
And radio stations combined. So I mean, I think they've figured a way to kind of like corner the market. So that's, and I don't think there's any other way. I mean, I just don't.
Well, we should start a union.
Yeah.
I'll start it with
100%.
you.
Me and you can start.
We could
I'll
start
manage it.
Yeah, we could go on strike.
Yeah, I don't know about
But that's what I'm saying. If the big guys strike,
some way to unionize though.
dude, if the big bands take a stand and don't go back on touring with Live Nation, it can happen. You guys, everyone could like just stand up for a change. That's what I was asking before.
I think the real answer to that is that people over the years they don't get together with artists because I think they don't see the value in it. And they're like, all right, I'm good. I got my amphitheater thing.
Right.
Every year I gotta pay this, for whatever their bills are.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't thinking about that shit. Like just like
It's true because artists want to create art.
Yeah.
We're not ready to get all like into nonsense. We
Right.
just want to like court the muse, so to speak.
But I think there is a problem with that because, historically and everything in like from athletics to publishing books to writing screenplays, there were people that actually kind of paved the way to make that a valuable entity, and musicians never did it. Like artists never did it. Like there's a screenwriters guild, there's this kind of like where there's a musicians union. It's like, but they don't let you put yourself as a musician to get paid on your own record, even though it says on your contract that you have to pay the union fees. So it's like you don't have, there's no, they say that's your manager. Your manager is supposed to be, or your lawyer is supposed to be that. But that's not really the case. I think that there's been, I think for the most part, artists just haven't really gotten together. And when you get to that level, you don't
need to
you're
anymore.
In the system, you're like, all right, I'm good. I don't care if they're taking the music from this or that. I got my show with the.
Have you talked to anybody about this?
No, I mean, just getting people to do shit like not let fucking places take your merch is hard enough. They're like, how do you do that? Like, I don't let them take my fucking merch money.
You won't let them
That's
take
how
a
I
cut?
do it.
Yeah.
And it's like that shit is ridiculous to me.
What?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing it. Like I busted my head one time in the shower. And I like had a concussion, like stitches and shit. And it was, I had like 10 shows. I was just like, you know what? This was before I knew that shit about concussions and all that shit, or I wouldn't have done. I was like, man, I'm gonna fucking cancel this tour because I was walking around in a haze. I was like, I ain't fucking giving them the merch ever again. And then, cut the deal with those promoters.
So getting hit on the head made you have that thought?
No, I was just like, why the fuck am I doing that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm out here and you're taking it. It was just a small thing, but it was just like, really?
Yeah.
I could have,
It adds up.
But did you get some resistance from people? You must
hell
have
yeah.
done.
I mean, they just like, well, they always get like even the agents. Well, all our artists have merch, get their merch. It's like, why does a merch? Why do they all deserve 20% or whatever the? I mean, some union halls are hard, but why would they deserve 20% of some shit you designed, that you bought, that you loaded, that you pay to sell to sell, and then they want 20% of the gross of that?
Because they're providing, I mean, just devil's advocate, because
They're providing
the store.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
But they're not providing. They're not making the merch. They don't lose off of it. So it's just
right, and they're getting from the concert.
So really, 20% of a gross might be.
It's just the way
50% or 60%.
Even at venues, whoever sells the merch also takes a cut, and that should be provided by the venue, just like whoever's selling tickets at the box office.
Yeah, I'm just not down with it.
So you've been victorious in that? What do they?
I mean, there's some venues that held out, but for the most part,
some venues wouldn't let you play.
Because my fans drink a lot. I've said that a lot of times. I'm not going to go there if I have to. I just did that on this last one.
Okay.
I'm not going to go there. I won't do the deal. It's just to me, it's just like you're sticking it harder already, taking like with the service fees that your fans have to pay for.
Yeah.
But everything else, it's like, you know, and you know, these service fees are ridiculous, and the promoter gets a piece and the club gets a piece.
Yeah, one of the things I was envious of when I opened up for you was your merch scene, dude. It was off the chain. That's why I was like, I even talked to you backstage. I was like, man, your merch scene is insane. Oh. That's when I said, who's your manager? And you were like, I'm doing it. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Good business head on you.
I don't think so.
I think you do.
I made a lot of bad business decisions.
But I'm just saying, like, I think you should pursue this as like it feels inspired or feels like to sort of divinely given to you, this sort of like, because I've never even thought about this shit.
Right.
But I mean, listening to you talk about it, I'm in. I would I would support it because it does make sense. We should come together. It makes total sense.
I think everyone should get together on the same page because it's just not, I mean, it's just really, but I think a lot of times that because we're not encouraged to we're kind of more like competition than like we're all artists.
Yeah, that's the way they pit us against.
If we sit down, we're all like, oh, that dude's cool. And like, I thought he was an asshole because I don't like his fucking song. You know, it's just like, but he's mad cool. He's like listening to the same shit. Like there's a common ground, and it's like, you know, like, you know, and I think that
there's always camaraderie between artists, and then on the other hand, what you're saying, there's really not.
No, I mean, there is, but then it's like the system is like, all right, shut up and get that check right now because you got a #1 hit record. Nobody's jumping off of the system when they got that.
Well, it's all about dividing and conquering. It's like with division of like, you know, that's you become conquerable, which is like you could talk about that going on greater in the whole world right now. But But yeah, like if we come together, that is a huge force and a huge power.
Yeah, it's an amazing power. I think, you know, because music is so powerful and has so much, you know, to give to humanity that it's just like, I don't know, the older I get and I just see it doesn't end well for a lot of artists, you know. I guess it's like, wow, man, this is like really like a lot of your, you know, let alone peers or people that you looked up to musically, like it just doesn't. I mean, frick, Michael Jackson and Prince, you know,
yeah,
it's just
even
like,
for them,
doesn't even end well for them, and it's like, I guess, you know, die young and you know, die with that Debbie Harry
good looking quote.
Yeah, like, you know, there's some truth to that, but I think that we haven't allowed ourselves to kind of connect on any level beside like, all right, because of that system that the management works with the promoters and the record companies, and then they have their one or two artists that's really doing well for them. And I think some managers are really good at like including the artists in that infrastructure, everything. But I've heard too many like, oh man, I just don't want to deal with artists. Like they look at us as fucking crazy as hell.
Right, I know.
And I think I think for a good reason.
A lot of the time.
Yeah, so it's like there is you know, like we talked about earlier, there's erratic shit that happens with people's lives that gets them to do this shit in the first place. So it's like you're not, you know,
you're building the house on some shifty ground already.
Right, yeah.
And you're building it with materials that are constantly changing. And so yeah, it is one of those things where, you know, and you have those mental issues anyway, and then plus if you have gotten success and everything, that does wild things to your ego and your spirit.
It takes you to a whole different place.
Yeah.
I always had empathy for people, like even, you know, people that have had that much crazy, you know, like notoriety, like what really happens to you.
Right.
You know, that doesn't end well a lot of times.
I know. It's true. I kind of am, I would definitely like to, you know, cultivate more success and have more financial ease.
Right.
But I do dig being able to move how I move.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's that point for growth. You can't really have too much growth on the other side, the personal growth. spiritual thing. It's kind of like, all right, if that's become your life, and feeding that is what it is, and it's become about. So it's like and it affects everything. You just see people. It sometimes it really destroys people.
So how would we go about doing this? Unionizing and taking care of our people.
Start the revolution.
How do we start this revolution?
Televised.
We talk about it on a podcast. That's step number 1. Check. See, we're already knocking off.
We gotta recruit.
At least 2 people.
We gotta become recruiters. I think finding what you really want.
Write it down.
And then finding people that could implement that, a group of people that could help implement and help that, as far as like, people that know the law and all that. Sure, there's a bunch of lawyers out there that want to help artists.
We have to write a mission statement, because first there was the word.
Yeah.
Explain it.
Yeah.
And
it's, I mean, just for the well-being of a lot of people, that, like, 'cause there's no reason why certain people should be just pushed aside in
I
this
agree.
thing. And
well, there is like Music Cares.
Music Cares is good, but I think actually they're amazing. I really think that kind of has a really good effect on people.
I wonder if I could call up Music Cares and be like, "Hey, yo, can I get $50K real quick?"
I don't think they would give you 50.
They gave us those free earplugs at See Here Now.
You're right.
They actually helped somebody in my crew.
Oh, they did.
Was sick, and I know
it's for health benefits for artists, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they do. But it's just weird that that's not already in place, that they had to put that in place already. That there's a bunch of people that played on some classic records that are freaking broke right now, or made, did some different, there's no way, like that Levon Helm, that situation where he kind of stopped getting his royalty checks. It was freaking sad.
I didn't hear about that.
Well, he just kind of always relied on, royalties. And then when all this stuff dried up, he just, he was sick.
Oh.
And then he wasn't getting his royalties anymore, so he couldn't go out and play.
Right. And did they take care of him, or?
I'm sure certain people did, but it just, I just don't think there should be a situation where you have to look for people to be
ask for
taken care of
and stuff like that.
Especially
when you're Levon Helm.
Yeah.
Especially when you're anybody.
Right.
But when somebody like Levon Helm, who, influenced a generation.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that guy.
Exactly.
On any level.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right.
And so, I mean, I don't know personally that he was like destitute. I'm not saying he was. All respect to his daughter and everything, but
much love.
But I just don't. I don't want like there to be a situation where an artist that is that significant in shaping so many different things that they're even thinking about that.
Well, the potential for devastation amongst many artists' lives looms so large right now. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think we have to do something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot, I think that goes back to the thing that we never really put anything out there like the athletes did, the actors did, the screenwriters did.
Yeah.
And it's like there's never been any. There's like, who do you call when something like this just comes up and people decide to do deals? Like it was like it was, the labels own a huge piece or a substantial piece of Spotify in coordination of giving them the music. Now, Sony sent me something for like that. And I was like, oh, what? It's like, and then you look at the publishing side of it that Spotify sent, and it's a lot more, and the majority of it is the master side. So so like the master side would take majority of the money, so it's like they didn't even report it. So I think that's the next fight that's gonna happen, is gonna be like, all right, all these artists are gonna be like, where's the money you got for the master side of the Spotify deal? So Spotify paid it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, man. I think we got to unionize.
Yeah, well,
honestly,
that'll happen.
It's a great idea.
I mean, I would love to think that cats would want to come together, but I think there's so many. I think artists really got to get in a room without any managers, without any labels, and talk about it.
There's strength in numbers, though. Like,
I
mean,
it's great to have the managers and everything, but I think what I'm saying is, managers. The reasons this shit has gone down is managers don't want to pick a fight with this.
Why not? What? I don't know if that's true anymore, because I don't like my manager doesn't. I mean,
there's no more manager.
Like, well,
right.
There are managers,
but like the big managers, if you go to like Irving Azoff and say, hey, if you're directed by, or you're his manager, is, I mean, in as much as he's been against Spotify or whatever against means, because somebody's gonna be that dude. It's just like, so it's Spotify, so you can't really, but the fact that, and I don't think Spotify is the bad guy in this. I just say that basically they got sold our rights, and they didn't necessarily we didn't necessarily give those rights to sell, in my opinion. Because
that's interesting.
I didn't get like a singles deal, like even same with Apple.
It just happened.
You know what happens? It's because artists are always coming from this place. It's like really the house is built in the same way. Like this we're always seeking to get some kind of like attention for our work,
right?
So anytime like oh yeah, Spotify's playing your shit or whatever, it's like, okay, good, you know, thank God. It's like coming from this. No. It is coming from a real weak stance.
No, we're insecure, so
coming
they know
from
that.
Insecurity, and they know that.
They know that coming with any of this. Like, so any new artists are like, all right, he can make his money this way, but to really make a living, they'll have to eventually get to Revlon or whatever. So that's gonna be their thing. They're not worried. And a lot of fame is intoxicating.
Right.
So anything that's intoxicating is addictive.
Yeah.
So it's a situation where that is coming from a completely insecure place, where we kind of like, all right, we don't have the leverage, because it's like, for whatever reason, or like we feel like, okay, that we didn't get acknowledgement. We weren't seen, we weren't heard, and now we got an opportunity to get seen and get heard. But then to do that, you have to really take some shots.
That's
it's
true.
Like being a boxer.
Now's the perfect time.
And
nothing else is going on.
It gets blurrier too, because then now we're living in a world where everybody's an artist. So many people are making shit. It's like, then what qualifies you as an artist?
I don't know.
I mean,
just like the SAG card, you need to put out an album, you need to have a single on the radio. There should be some requirement to get you into the union.
I hope I qualify for the union I'm about
to
start.
Start with. You're like, well, me and you both.
Listen, for a SAG card, you need to have a line in a movie.
That's fucking funny.
You need to have one talking line.
We start the union, then we're not allowed in.
Oh my God, imagine. Sorry, Joe, you don't quite qualify. You almost did. You should have come to the meeting where we made the rules.
Cope and Joe started this union. And everybody got paid except them.
Ain't that a bitch? Man.
Like, good work, guys. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
So are you thinking of side hustles now, like in terms of like making a living, or is your mind going in that direction, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about just maybe not side hustle. I think more like maybe things creatively that I wanted to do in the past that I haven't done. I think that's something that might come just out of sheer need to do something creative. Because when this shit is cut off, it's like, all right, I can't go out on stage anymore. I used to be a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff. So it's like, all right, well, maybe I'll try to write a screenplay that never gets picked up, or one that gets
manifest that, a screenplay that goes huge.
Yeah,
or
well, that's what I was about to say, or one that goes number one.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
It's like
that's more likely.
Yeah. So but I'm just saying screenplay for whatever it is. But I think I think creative outlet, be able to do something cool, and I think that's kind of where that is, and having the ability to do it. Just something that I wanted to do now that I have more time is just kind of making your time count.
So are you having a hard time focusing, or are you finding it easy to focus?
I'm not. I haven't had my like, oh, here's the song about the what I'm dealing with moment. I think that, or just like the song for the times kind of thing. I think that, people are really struggling right now. So it's like, this is there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I think we just got caught up in kind of fake shit. And I'm just kind of like thinking about like what the fuck is really important. So
and what do you think that is?
I think collectively, a group of people, finding the reason why this happened, finding some reasoning behind it, like why it happened, what's going on, and trying to make that the best. Because I think there's like, it's just, there's so many things in the last couple years that seem alien to me. I would go to these cities and be like, all this stuff is growing, and I'm like, well, who the fuck? Oh, this place is just like Nashville. Oh, it's it's playing gangbusters here. And you ask the Uber driver, well, oh man, everything's really growing. You should have seen it. Da, da, da. Well, are you making more money? And he's like, nah, man, I had to move out of town. So is it really touching? Is development really touching people on a personal level? And then you see, the technology, is that really helping anyone? Like, what is it? Is the medical, have we gotten any cures for any disease? Like, all the main things that make this country run, like the dirty little secrets, like what is I was like, where is this going? And it just stopped. It's like, and I was just confused by it. I was like, how does all this happen? Like, where's all this money coming from to build all these cities? Like, who's getting the jobs? And it's like, tech companies that necessarily hundreds of them, and there's one that you actually kind of heard of, but thousands of them that got started and were invested in by all these different groups. And you go into a new tech company and they got a chef and a kitchen, and they're like some company that just started to put music out kind of thing. It's like they're living larger than the record companies.
It strikes me like there's a spirit war going on.
Well, it's definitely a spiritual war.
Yeah,
there's definitely a spiritual war, and I think it's people have been lulled into, they've been lulled into kind of going along with it. They've just been, I don't know if it's the brainwash or whatever.
Some people see it and some people just don't.
No, they don't get it.
They just don't see it, and then they think the people that see it are fucking bonkers.
Well, that's the way it is,
and
right?
That's just the way that the cookie crumbles.
There's always you're genius or you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's like it's half of that side, and ignorance is bliss sometimes. So
yeah.
Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Well, dude, this has been powerful to me.
Yeah.
Me too, man.
I fucking love you, and I'm so happy that you did this.
Thank you.
You're one of my favorite artists.
Thank you, man.
You're a contemporary too, so you know that's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
It takes a little something extra than if you were like Bob Dylan or some shit. Be easier. But no, for real, you are. I think you're great, and
you've always been like it meant so much because of how much talent you have that you would always be so like up and up about giving me love. And
man,
it's always been fun.
It's easy to do, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for coming. That was
Thank
was
you.
fascinating. I'm gonna be thinking about this, and I definitely think this union idea is. I think we stumbled upon something. Well, you already had it, but we got to hear about something that I think could be massive.
Yeah, I mean,
for people.
What's that?
Unionizing and coming together and taking care of each other.
I think that's I definitely think it is. I mean, if the people pulling the strings, they might come after us. But
we might need rebellion.
Hey, we might have
let them, man.
Let them. Yeah, we got to become freedom fighters.
Yeah, I think there's. I just think the
you
best
build it, they will
us
come.
Having a voice is important.
Yeah.
Whether it fixes anything that's going down, but it's like we have to be in that room. That room can't just be the promoters, the managers, and the record companies anymore. It's got to be the artists have to be part of that equation. And as volatile as some of us can be, and all that, that it just has to be what's going on.
And we got to take care of each other.
Yeah, we got to take care of each other, man. We got to, figure out a way to start giving, like, I do like $1 a ticket where I give, to certain charities. I'd rather give that to, and I actually do give to Music Cares, but just having something, oh shit, this guy needs, family man needs something, or like, people that, there's just been people out there that are going through it, and I definitely am empathetic about what the music industry can do to you mentally, spiritually, and physically.
You got to be tough as nails to come through it and have with any semblance of sanity and your spirit intact.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, and you just seen too many people go down, and it's like there's just got to be a way to kind of like stop that. And I understand, like, the more I understand, kind of understand what depression is and all that kind of stuff, you see that, they always say, is the artist, the person, was he predestined to be this way, or does the business make him that way? And I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
But you made so many interesting points, man. I'm going to be thinking about this. I think it's got to be something that's written down.
Yeah.
It just has to be a mission statement written down and then presented to the world through social media or whatever, and see who responds. I think the response you would get from this line of thinking would be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because my mind is blown by it.
Yeah, I mean, it should have happened for a long time ago.
I agree.
It's like you're operating on your own island against some huge, powerful entity, which is, it's not really beatable unless you are together. Because we haven't found that we have the power. Just like this country, we haven't found that we have. Together we could really solve a lot of humanity's problems, but we're sitting there bickering over politics. We're bickering over sub-politics, religion, economics.
And we're all in our own information echo chambers, so we're hearing the same things we believe over and over again.
With our crew.
And it's like it reinforces whatever you believe in over and over and over again. YouTube keeps bringing the same type of content up to you.
Everything that's in that documentary you're going to finish watching.
Oh, okay.
That's why that happens.
Oh, I see. And then
algorithms.
So then that's why people that you love and care about that you normally would get along with have a completely different worldview about what's going on, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
How can you not see this?
Right.
And they can't.
Right.
And you can't see what they're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, there's everybody, everybody's got somebody that they disagree with in their inner circle. That person might have taught them how to, tie their shoes or took them fishing, uncle or, family member or friend that you still have learned something from because they do think differently than you.
Yeah.
And we're just not used to having, we're not allowing people to have different feelings and different opinions. We're in that bubble like you're talking about, where it just keeps on getting regurgitated, and then the the political you against you, and then it's like at the end of the day, like nobody wants. Why don't we get together and figure out some of these friggin' diseases like Alzheimer's or whatever, like whatever, just one of them. But
you know what helps with Alzheimer's? Fasting.
Full
circle.
Yeah, I mean a lot of that gets swept under the rug. But we're learning new things that actually will help us. So we gotta figure that out.
And we gotta tone down the vitriol against each other or against people who think differently than you do. People can think differently, and they're not evil.
Yep.
People, and
that's not the case now.
Yeah.
It's like
there's no nuance anymore.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, what is that going to take away from me if I think this way or if I vote for this way?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of all right, what are we going to gain? We just stop being we're operating as a population without any leverage. Like we don't have any leverage. We're going to get what they take us, what they give us.
Right.
And we're not going to try to have, these school teachers getting paid a lot of money. And we're not going to try to figure out the medical system, financial shit that's going on. We're not even teaching our kids to learn how to budget, anything.
Tell me about it.
They get out there. And
they weren't doing that back in the day either.
Hell no. But, you don't even know anything about that. You're not taught about basic principles to survive in a capitalist society.
Right.
You just taught, who, I don't give a fuck about Lewis and Clark. I just want to know, no offense, Lewis and Clark.
Right.
But whoever, I don't need to learn about that. I need to know that.
Yeah. How to make a budget.
Or just how to, what's really going to affect you.
Yeah, or the people are out there maybe gaslighting you or this, that, and the other thing, things that actually matter.
Right. Or just even about.
Or how to cook and feed yourself.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Or if nutrition. We're not even taught.
Nutrition's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people knew, if people understood how powerful they were, I think the world would shift, and I think people are waking up.
I think
to that, and I think that's why we're seeing the resistance clamping down harder than ever before, because people are also simultaneously waking up to their power.
Yeah, I think we have so much, an enormity of power within us to really, really, really
change the world.
Yeah, I think we have that.
We do.
And it's an amazing time for that.
It is.
Yeah. So.
Well, if they weren't afraid of your power, they wouldn't try to limit your ability to express yourself.
Right.
And
then, back to that thing of the different opinions and stuff, it's like, there might be somebody that is pro-gun that you might be, I think we need to take the guns off the street, but there's things that you agree with them about.
Well, you don't have to hate somebody because they have a different opinion about that.
Because we haven't allowed ourselves to sit in that room.
Or demonize them because they have a different opinion.
Yeah, we haven't sat in that room with that person. We see that person on television and be like, oh, that person's about, go to an area that has a lot of people that think differently than you and have that conversation with that person.
Right.
And kind of, you'll learn something.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with them or not, you'll learn something from it.
Yeah, just everyone, like people aren't like two-dimensional cartoons. They're complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn, man, this one's going to give people a lot to think about.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably,
I'm happy. We got him in.
All right.
Yeah.
You got me in.
Now I'll never get a text from you again saying, "Hey, man, what about?"
It was so random.
Why don't you text
I was
Cope?
like, "Dude, text Cope. He's on the East Coast. Maybe we can meet him. Maybe we can meet him in Massachusetts."
That's why I texted you today, and I was like,
"Dude, he's in the city." I'm like, "Dude, text. Let's do it today."
I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I'm glad.
Man.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you. I'm glad I did too, man.
Yeah.
This was a treat. All right, everyone.
All right.
Let's wrap this one up. Rewind it. Listen to it again. God bless.
Thank you. Good night.
Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.